Most people think that all coal is created equal, but this isn't the case. There are two major types of coal, anthracite or hard coal, and bituminous or soft coal. Bituminous is used much more frequently and supplies 55% of U.S. electricity generation needs. Anthracite is used in some parts of the country near where it is mined in northeastern Pennsylvania and is an attractive home heating option. Compared to bituminous and wood, it produces no creosote and in most applications no smoke. Even compared to fuel oil, from an environmental standpoint, it has a number of characteristics which make it preferable. The stove I am using is manufactured by a company called Hitzer. It is a fireplace insert. It has had a fire in it now continuously for 4 months. Here's a diagram I made of the stove. If you want, you can pause here in the video to look at the individual pieces of equipment and features of the stove. The fire shown has been burning unmodified for about 12 hours. Perhaps there have been small changes made to the intake vents to supply air to the fire, but other than this, the coal bed itself has been undisturbed for that period of time. In order to add more coal, we first need to remove the ashes which have formed at the bottom of the coal bed. Before doing so, we want to have a very healthy fire, and we open the vents in the form of the ash pan door below and the manual pipe damper above to liven the fire. As more air is supplied to the fire grows more intense. This is difficult to see in this video, but I've made a few screen grabs or frame grabs. Here is before livening the fire, and here is after. Again, before and after. The camera adjusts exposure so that it's more difficult to see this, but the frame grabs allow you to see just how much of an effect increasing the draft dramatically has on the fire. Once the fire is livened, we can begin with putting on goggles and gloves for protection. We then use a handle and place it over each of the pegs that allow you to rock the shaker grates. There are 3 shaker grates in this stove. You want to rock vigorously until most of the ash from all 3 grates is in the pan. After this, we can see how the fire before shaking is at one level and after it is at another. This creates more room for new coal to be added, which is what we will do here. We open the fill door, keeping the ash pan door and the manual pipe damper open the whole time, and we start adding shovelfuls of coal. Ultimately, we want to fill it to the top of the fire brick there in the back until you have something that looks like this. It should be about 30 pounds in this stove. After that, we close the filled door and remove the filled ash pan. We lift it up by the handles and remove the ashes into a fireproof container, and when we're finished with that, we place the empty ash pan back into the stove. At this point, we can see a glow of the active fire in the ash pan and a single flame in the firebox. We want to keep a flame going in the firebox at all times to burn off volatile gases which are being released from the fresh coal. Over 5 or 10 minutes or so, there are an increasing number of flames which begin to appear in the fresh coal bed. We want these flames to be appearing throughout most of the coal bed before beginning to shut down the air intake vent. At about this time also, we will begin to see attractive flames above the coal bed itself, which are the volatile gases burning off. Again, we want there to be flames in most of the coal bed. It is very important not to leave the stove unattended at this time, because it is very common to forget that you've left the ash pan door open. If you do so, you could overfire your stove substantially, which could damage the stove and risk a house fire. Given more time, the flames do indeed progress throughout the entire firebox. And we can then close the ash pan door and also the manual pipe damper by pushing in the rod at the top of the stove. This reduces outflow of exhaust gases by about 75%. That is, in terms of the area of the exhaust flue, it reduces that area. At this point we watch and we can further reduce air intake by, in this case we're increasing intake by increasing the size of the vent holes in the ash pan door, or we can reduce air intake and reduce stove temperature by closing them down. At this point you should have a fire that looks something like this. Much of the coal bed is aflame, but not very active because there's little airflow going into the stove. But in 10 or 12 hours you will again have a fire that looks like this, and it will be time to repeat this process.